conference room was silent, except for the sound of Martin Caldwell's breathing. He sat across from his brother David, his sister Rachel, and a lawyer he'd never met before. On the table between them was a document that would change everything they thought they knew about their family. The lawyer's hand trembled slightly as she turned to page 17 of their father's will, and when she read the name aloud, Rachel stood up so quickly, her chair fell backward. The name belonged to someone who had been dead for 23 years. Let me take you back to where this actually began. 3 months earlier, on a cold February morning in Portland, Oregon, Thomas Caldwell died at the age of 78. In his sleep, a heart attack, sudden and painless, according to the autopsy. He left behind 3 children, a paid-off house in the suburbs worth roughly $800,000, a retirement account with $412,000, and a portfolio of stocks and bonds valued at just over $2 million. By most standards, Thomas Caldwell had done well for himself. He'd worked as an electrical engineer for Morrison Industries for 37 years. He'd been widowed for 11 years after his wife Eleanor died of ovarian cancer. He lived simply, drove a 15-year-old Honda, and ate dinner every Sunday with at least one of his children. The funeral was attended by 240 people. Martin, the eldest at 52, gave the eulogy. He spoke about their father's dedication to his work, his quiet sense of humor, his love of crossword puzzles and old westerns. David, 49, sat in the front row with his wife Jennifer and their 2 teenage sons. Rachel, 46, sat alone. She'd been divorced for 3 years, and her relationship with her father had been complicated, though no one could say exactly why. After the burial, the family gathered at Martin's house in Lake Oswego. It was the kind of gathering where people spoke in low voices and ate finger sandwiches they didn't really taste. Martin's wife, Catherine, had organized everything with her usual efficiency. The guests left by 7. By 8, only Martin, David, Rachel, and their respective families remained. It was David who brought up the will first. "That told me everything was split evenly," he said, standing by the fireplace with a glass of scotch. 3 ways. Simple. Martin nodded. "That's what he told me to. He said he'd updated everything last year to make sure there wouldn't be any confusion." Rachel said nothing. She stood by the window, looking out at the dark yard. "Rachel," Martin's voice was gentle but firm, "did Dad talk to you about the will?" She turned. Her eyes were red but dry. "He said I'd be taken care of. That's all." The reading of the will was scheduled for 2 weeks later to give everyone time to process their grief. It seemed like a formality. Thomas Caldwell had always been methodical and fair. He'd put all 3 children through college. Without loans, he'd given each of them $20,000 toward their first homes. When Eleanor was sick, he'd made sure all 3 children spent equal time with her. Fairness had been something close to religion for Thomas Caldwell. So when the family gathered at the law offices of Patterson and Associates on March 4th, no one expected anything unusual. The lawyer's name was Victoria Reeves. She was perhaps 60, with steel gray hair pulled back in a bun and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She explained that she'd been working with Thomas Caldwell for the past 8 months on what he'd called getting his affairs in order. "Mr. Caldwell was very specific about his wishes," she said, opening a leather folder. "I'm going to read through the document in its entirety, and then we can discuss any questions." The first pages were standard. Funeral arrangements, which had already been carried out according to his wishes. Small bequests to charities. $5,000 to the local library. $10,000 to a scholarship fund at Portland State University. $2,002. Then came the primary bequests. "To my son, Martin James Caldwell, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my collection of books, which he has always appreciated." Martin's face registered surprise, then confusion. $50,000. Out of nearly $3 million in total assets. "To my son, David Michael Caldwell, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my tools, which you may find useful." David's jaw tightened. He glanced at Martin, Tinat Rochelle. "To my daughter, Rachel, Anne Caldwell. I left the sum of $50,000 in my wife's jewelry, which was always meant for her. Victoria Reeves paused. She took a sip of water. When she continued, her voice was carefully neutral. The remainder of my estate, including my house, all financial accounts, stocks, bonds, and any other assets not specifically mentioned above, I leave to Lily Marlowe Caldwell. The room went completely still. Rachel spoke first. "I'm sorry." Whew. Victoria looked up from the document. "Lily Marlowe Caldwell. There's no one by that name in our family," Martin said. His voice was steady, but his hands, folded on the table, had gone white at the knuckles. "Is this a mistake?" David asked. "Did he mean to write someone else's name?" Victoria Reeves set down the document. "I assure you this is not a mistake. Your father and I went over this will 3 times. He was absolutely clear about every provision." "Then who the hell is Lily Marlowe Caldwell?" David's voice was rising. Victoria opened a second folder and removed a sheet of paper. "According to the documentation your father provided, Lily Marlowe Caldwell was born on August 14th, 1973. Her birth certificate lists Thomas Caldwell and Marlowe Christine Bennett as her parents." The silence that followed was like something physical, pressing down on all of them. Martin was the one who finally broke it. His voice came out hoarse. "That's not possible. I have a copy of the birth certificate here," Victoria said quietly. "It doesn't matter what you have," Rachel said. She was still standing, gripping the back of her chair. "Lily is dead. She died in 1991. She drowned. There was a death certificate and a funeral and a goddamn gravestone." Victoria Reeves looked at Rachel with something that might have been pity. "I'm aware of the death certificate from 1991. However, your father made it very clear that Lily Marlowe Caldwell is alive and that the entirety of his remaining estate is to be transferred to her upon the completion of probate. If you're drawn to stories about families unraveling over secrets and inheritance, subscribing means you won't miss what happens next." David stood up. "This is insane. We need to see that birth certificate. We need to see everything." Victoria slid the paper across the table. Martin picked it up with hands that shook slightly. The document looked official. State of Oregon, August 14th, 1973. Mother, Marlowe Christine Bennett, age 22. Father, Thomas James Caldwell, age 20. "This has to be a fake," Martin said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Your father included several other documents," Victoria continued. "Photographs, letters. He wanted you to understand. Understand what?" Rachel's voice broke. "That our father had a secret child, that he lied to us our entire lives. I think," Victoria said carefully, "that the situation is more complicated than it appears." She opened the folder wider and removed a photograph. It showed a young woman, maybe 20 or 21, with dark hair and Thomas Caldwell's eyes. She was standing on a beach somewhere, squinting into the sun, smiling. "This was taken in 2008. Victoria sighed. "Your father gave it to me personally." Martin stared at the photograph. 2008. 17 years after she supposedly drowned. "Yes." Rachel grabbed the photo. She studied it for a long moment, then set it down like it had burned her. "I need air." She walked out of the conference room without looking back. David and Martin sat in silence. Victoria Reeves gathered her papers into neat stacks, giving them time. Finally, Martin spoke. "Tell us everything from the beginning." Victoria nodded. "According to your father, he met Marlowe Bennett in 1972. He was 24, working his first job out of college. She was 21, working as a secretary at the same company. They had a brief relationship. When Marlowe discovered she was pregnant, Thomas was already engaged to your mother, Eleanor." "So he abandoned her?" David said flatly. "Not exactly. He and Marlowe came to an arrangement. He provided financial support. He visited Lily regularly during her early childhood. But he and Eleanor married as planned. In November of 19... Your mother never knew about Marlowe or Lily. Martin's face had gone gray. How is that possible? How do you hide a child for years? Marlowe moved to Eugene. Thomas told Eleanor he was traveling for work. In reality, he was spending weekends with Lily. This continued until Lily was about 6 years old. And then what? Martin asked. Victoria hesitated. Marlowe met someone. A man named Richard Hallis. She wanted to start fresh. She asked Thomas to step back. He agreed on the condition that he could still provide financial support. Richard adopted Lily. Her name was changed to Lily Hollis. The visits stopped. David leaned back in his chair, so he just walked away. He sent money every month. He kept track of her through a private investigator. He had photographs, report cards, information about her life, but he didn't see her in person for many years. Until when? Martin asked. 1991. The year Lily supposedly died. Martin and David drove back to Martin's house in separate cars, but they both arrived at the same time. Rachel's car was already in the driveway. They found her in the kitchen with Catherine, drinking coffee that had gone cold. "We need to talk about this," Martin said. "What's there to talk about?" Rachel's voice was bitter. "Dad had a bastard daughter he kept secret. Now she gets everything, and we get table scraps. We need to find out if this is even legal," David said. "We should contest the will." "On what grounds?" Martin asked. "From what Victoria said, everything was done properly. The will is clear. The documentation exists." "The documentation says she's dead," Rachel snapped. "There's a death certificate. I remember the funeral, Martin. Don't you?" Martin sat down heavily. "I remember Dad going away for a weekend in September of 1991. He said it was for work. He came back and he was different. Quieter. He stopped smiling for months. He told us an old friend had died," David said slowly. "I remember now. A colleague from his early days at Morrison Industries. We sent flowers to the family." Rachel stood up and paced to the window. "I was in college. He called me on a Tuesday night. He sounded devastated. He said someone important to him had passed away and he needed me to know that life was fragile. I thought he was having a midlife crisis or something. I told him I loved him and hung up. What if she did die?" Catherine spoke for the first time. "What if there was a death, but somehow she survived? Or what if it was faked?" "Why would anyone fake a death?" David asked. No one had an answer. Over the next 3 days, the siblings tried to piece together what they could about Lily Marlowe Caldwell. Martin hired a private investigator named Frank Delgado, who'd done work for his law firm before. David started searching public records online. Rachel went through their father's house, looking for anything that might explain what had happened. It was Rachel who found the box. She'd been going through the basement, sorting through decades of accumulated belongings. Their mother's old sewing machine, Christmas decorations, boxes of tax returns, and insurance documents. In the far corner, behind a stack of paint cans, she found a locked metal filing box. She brought it upstairs and used a screwdriver to pry it open. Inside were letters dozens of team-spanning decades. The earliest was dated June 1973, written in a woman's looping handwriting. "Thomas, Lily is beautiful. She has your eyes. I don't regret anything, but I won't pretend this is easy. The money you sent helped with the hospital bills. Thank you. Marlowe." Rachel sat on the basement stairs and read letter after letter. They told a story her father had never shared. Marlowe writing about Lily's first words, her first steps, her first day of kindergarten. Thomas apparently writing back, though Rachel didn't have his letters. Marlowe thanking him for money, for a new winter coat for Lily, for birthday presents sent through the mail. Then, in 1979, the tone changed. "Thomas, I need to tell you something. I've met someone. His name is Richard and he's kind to both of us. Lily adores him. I think this could be something real, but he doesn't know about you. I need to decide what's best for Lily. Please understand." 3 months later, another letter. "Thomas," Richard proposed, Primera, sa idejas. He wants to adopt Lily. He wants to be a father in every way. I know this isn't what we agreed to, but it's what's best for her. She needs stability. She needs a father who's present. I hope you can support this decision. There was a gap then. No letters for almost a decade. Then, in 1989, a letter in different handwriting. Younger, less controlled. Dear Thomas, my mom gave me your address. She said, you're my biological father. I don't really know what to say. Primera, habea that. His name is Richard, and he's been my father my whole life. But Mom says you've been sending money and asking about me, so I guess I wanted to say thank you. I'm doing okay. I'm a junior in high school. I like art. And I'm thinking about going to college for graphic design. Maybe we could meet sometime if you want. Lily Rachel's hands were shaking as she read the next letter, dated 3 weeks later. Lily, I would very much like to meet you. I've thought about you every day since you were born. I understand if this is strange or uncomfortable. I want you to know that I never stopped caring about you, even when I couldn't be part of your life. I'm proud of you. Thomas. The letters between Thomas and Lily continued through 1989. In 1990, they were careful and polite at first, then gradually warmer. Lily wrote about her classes, her friends, her college applications. Thomas wrote about his work, his love of books, his advice about choosing a career. Then came a letter dated July 1991. Thomas, I don't know how to write this. Richard is gone. He died in a car accident 2 weeks ago. Mom is a mess. I'm trying to hold everything together, but I don't think I can. I know we're not really close, but you said I could call if I ever needed anything. I need something now. I need to know that I'm not alone. Lily, and Thomas's response, dated 5 days later. Lily, I'm so sorry. I'm here. Whatever you need, I'm driving to Eugene this weekend. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone. Thomas. The next letter was dated September 19th. It was from Marlo. Thomas, I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself, but I need you to understand why I did what I did. After Richard died, everything fell apart. Lily started using drugs. She dropped out of college before she even started. She was with dangerous people. I tried everything. Rehab, therapy, begging her to come home. Nothing worked. Teninagushi overdosed. She almost died. The hospital saved her. But when she woke up, she told me she wanted to disappear. She said she couldn't be Lily Hallis anymore. That person was too broken. She begged me to help her start over. So I did. I filed a death certificate. We had a small funeral. Her friends think she drowned while camping, and then Lily left. She changed her name. She moved to California. She got clean. She started a new life. I know this was wrong. I know it was illegal, but it saved her. She's alive because I let Lily Hollis die. Please don't try to find her. Let her have this fresh start. Marlo. Rachel sat in the basement for 2 hours after reading that letter. Then she called her brothers. They met at Martin's house. Again that night, Rachel brought the box. They read through the letters together, passing them back and forth in silence. He knew, David said finally. Dad knew she was alive the whole time. He helped fake her death, Rachel added. Her voice was hollow. He was part of it. Martin was reading the last letters in the box. They were more recent, dated from 2000 to 2019. Lily writing to Thomas from various addresses in California, Arizona, New Mexico. She'd graduated from community college. She'd gotten a job doing graphic design for a small marketing firm. She'd gotten married. She'd had a daughter. she'd gotten divorced. Through it all, she'd stayed in touch with Thomas. He had a relationship with her, Martin said, for almost 30 years after her supposed death. He knew his granddaughter. He was part of her life. While lying to us every single day, Rachel said. David picked up one of the more recent letters. Listen to this. It's from 2017. Dad, I've been thinking about your suggestion. I know you want me to reconnect with my half-siblings, but I'm not ready. What if they hate me? What if they think I'm just after money? You've been so generous over the years. I don't need anything from your estate. I just want you in my life. Please don't push this. Lily? He wanted us to know about her, Martin said slowly, but he never told us, Rachel said. He died without telling us. He left it for Victoria Reeves to explain. Catherine, who'd been listening quietly from the doorway, spoke up. Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe he was afraid you'd hate him. I do hate him, Rachel said. The words came out hard and cold. I hate him for lying. I hate him for having this whole secret family while we thought we knew him. I hate him for leaving everything to her. It's not about the money, Martin started to say. Yes, it is, Rachel cut him off. Don't pretend it's not. He left us each $50,000 out of a $3 million estate. That's a slap in the face. That's him saying we don't matter as much as his secret daughter. David was reading another letter. There's more here. Listen. This is from 2018. Dad, I know you're worried about your health. I know the doctor said the heart disease is progressing, but please don't make any decisions about the will because of me. I've told you, I don't need it. I have a good job. I have my own life. Give it to Martin, David, and Rachel. They're your real family. He wanted to give her everything, even when she told him not to. The silence that followed was broken by Martin's phone ringing. It was Frank Delgado, the private investigator. Martin put him on speaker. I found her, Frank said without preamble. Lily Caldwell. She's living in Tucson, Arizona. Works as a senior designer at a marketing agency called Bright Horizon. Married name is Lily Chun, but she legally changed it back to Caldwell 5 years ago. Has a 14-year-old daughter named Maya. Clean record. Pays her taxes. Not on social media much, but I found an old Instagram account from 2016. I'm sending you the details now. Does she know about the will? Martin asked. I don't know. I haven't made contact, just observation and public records. You want me to approach her? Martin looked at his siblings. Rachel shook her head. David shrugged. Not yet, Martin said. Just keep watching. Let me know if anything changes. After Frank hung up, they sat in silence again. What do we do? David finally asked. We contest the will, Rachel said. We argue that Dad wasn't in his right mind. We fight this. On what grounds? Martin asked. He was competent. He worked with Victoria Reeves for months. The will is airtight. Then we go to her, Rachel said. We tell her she's not entitled to this. We make her refuse it. She didn't ask for it, Catherine pointed out gently. From the letters, it sounds like she actively tried to talk him out of it. I don't care, Rachel said. I want answers. I want to look her in the eye and ask her why she let our father carry this secret to his grave. 3 days later, Martin bought a plane ticket to Tucson. He didn't tell his siblings he was going. He knew Rachel would insist on coming, would turn it into a confrontation. He knew David would want to involve lawyers. Martin wanted to meet Lily alone, to understand who she was before deciding what came next. He found her address. Exactly enough. A small house in a quiet neighborhood north of the city. The yard was neat, with desert plants and a vegetable garden. A 10-year-old Subaru sat in the driveway. Martin sat in his rental car across the street for 20 minutes before he found the courage to knock on her door. The woman who answered was 41, but she looked younger. She had Thomas Caldwell's eyes, his straight nose, his way of tilting her head when she was thinking. She was wearing jeans and a paint-stained t-shirt. There was music playing somewhere inside the house. Can I help you? she asked. My name is Martin Caldwell, he said. I'm your half-brother. The color drained from her face. Oh God, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to talk. She stood there for a long moment, hands still on the door. Then she stepped back. Come in. The house was small, but well kept. Art on the walls, books on shelves, photographs of a teenage girl who had to be Lily's daughter. Lily led Martin to the kitchen and gestured for him to sit at a small table by the window. Coffee, she asked. Please. She made 2 cups in silence, then sat down across from him. I was wondering when one of you would show up. You know about the will? Victoria Reeves called me 3 weeks ago, the day after Dad died. She said the wood died carefully, like she wasn't sure she had the right to use it. She explained everything. I told her there had to be a mistake. It's not a mistake. Lily wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. I told him not to do this. For years, I told him. I said, give it to you and David and Rachel. You're his real children. You're his real child, too. She looked up at him with eyes that were swimming with tears. I'm the child he kept secret, the one he was ashamed of. I don't think he was ashamed, Martin said quietly. I think he was trapped by choices he made a long time ago and didn't know how to fix. He could have told you about me. Any time in the last 30 years, he could have told you. Did you want him to? Lily was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. When I was younger, yes. When I first started writing to him, I had all these fantasies about meeting my siblings, about being part of a real family. But then years went by and he never said anything, and I realized that I was separate. I was the mistake he made before he had his real life. That's not fair to him, Marta said, surprising himself. He kept every letter you ever sent him. He had photographs of you and your daughter everywhere. He talked about you to his lawyer. You weren't a mistake to him. Then why didn't he tell you? The question came out raw and painful. Martin didn't have an answer. They talked for 3 hours. Lily told him about her childhood, about Richard, who'd been the only father she'd known until she was 16, about the devastation when Richard died, the spiraling to drugs and depression, the near-death experience that led to her faked drowning. Mom thought she was saving me, Lily said. And maybe she was. I got clean. I built a new life. But I lost everything. My friends, my history, my identity. I became someone else. When did Dad find you again? 1998, 7 years after I disappeared. He hired investigators. He found me in Phoenix, working at a coffee shop. He showed up one day and just stood there looking at me. I almost didn't recognize him. He'd aged. I didn't know what to say. He asked if we could talk. We sat in that coffee shop for 4 hours. What did you talk about? Everything. He apologized for not being there when I was growing up. He said he'd made a terrible mistake, choosing his marriage over me. He said he wanted to be part of my life, if I'd let him. I told him I needed time. He said he'd wait. And he did. Every few months, we will do. We talked. After a few years, it felt normal. He met my husband. He was there when Maya was born. He sent birthday presents. He called every Sunday. He called us every Sunday too, Martin said. I know. He told me about you sometimes, about your work, your families. I felt like I knew you even though we'd never met. Why didn't you push him to tell us? Lily looked down at her hands. Because I was afraid. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid you'd think I was trying to steal him from you. Afraid I'd lose him again if I pushed too hard. Martin sat back in his chair. Rachel thinks you manipulated him into leaving you the estate. I didn't. I swear I didn't. I have emails, texts. I can prove I told him not to do it. I believe you. Lily looked at him with surprise. You do. The question is, what we do now. I'm going to refuse the inheritance, Lily said. I'll sign whatever paperwork is needed. I don't want to come between you and your siblings. That's not what Dad wanted. I don't care what Dad wanted, Lily said, and there was anger in her voice now. He put me in an impossible position. He made me the villain in his will. He turned his death into a nightmare for both of us. Martin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Arizona sun was beating down on the quiet street. There is something else you should know. Rachel found letters in Dad's basement. Letters from you, from your mom, the whole story. She knows everything. How did she take it? Not well. She wants to contest the will. David's on the fence. I think he's just hurt that Dad kept this secret. What about you? Martin turned to look at her. I'm angry. I'm confused. I feel like I didn't know my own father. But I also think he was trying to make things right in the only way he knew how. And I don't think punishing you is the answer. Lily stood up. She was several inches shorter than Martin. But in that moment, she looked strong, determined. I'm going to write a formal letter, refusing the inheritance. I'll send it to Victoria Reeves. The estate can be split between you, David, and Rachel. Like it should have been. Lily, wait. It's the only way this ends without destroying everyone. Martin pulled out his phone. Before you do that, I want you to talk to Rachel and David. They deserve to hear your side. They'll hate me. Maybe. But they deserve the chance to decide for themselves. 4 days later, Lily flew to Portland. Marty met her at the airport and drove her to his house, where David and Rachel were waiting. The meeting had taken careful negotiation. Rachel initially refused. David agreed only after Martin promised it would be brief. When Lily walked into Martin's living room, Rachel's face went hard. David stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. Thank you for seeing me. Lily said quietly. We didn't have much choice, Rachel said. Martin was very insistent. Lily sat down on the couch. Martin sat beside her, a silent show of support. I want you to know that I never wanted any of this. I never asked your father to leave me his estate. I actively tried to talk him out of it. Do you have proof of that? David asked. Lily pulled out her phone and opened her email. These are messages from the last 2 years. Him telling me about updating his will. Me telling him not to. Him insisting. Me refusing to discuss it. She handed the phone to David. He read through the emails, then passed it to Rachel. Rachel read in silence, her expression unreadable. These could be fake. They're not, Lily said. But I understand why you'd think that. You don't know me. You have no reason to trust me. You're right, Rachel said. I don't know you, but I know our father loved you enough to lie to his wife for 30 years. I know he loved you enough to help you fake your own death. I know he loved you enough to give you everything and leave us with scraps. He didn't leave you scraps, Lily said. He left you each other. He left you a lifetime of memories. He left you a father you could be proud of. I got money and secrets and shame. You've got $3 million, Rachel said coldly, which I'm refusing. The room went silent. David spoke first. What? I'm refusing the inheritance. I have a letter drafted for Victoria Reeves. I'll sign whatever legal documents are needed. The estate will be split between the 3 of you. Rachel leaned back in her chair, studying Lily. Why? Because I don't need the money, and because I won't let your father's mistakes destroy what's left of this family. We're not your family, Rachel said. Lily flinched but held her ground. You're right. I'm sorry. I meant your family. Martin intervened. Rachel, that's enough. Is it? Rachel stood up. She waltzes in here, plays the martyr, expects us to be grateful. I don't expect anything, Lily said. I just want to do the right thing. The right thing would have been to tell Dad to be honest with us years ago. The right thing would have been to stay dead. The words hung in the air like poison. Lily stood up slowly. You're right. Primera sohuldabe. I should have done a lot of things differently. But I was young and scared and I made mistakes, just like your father did. Just like you probably have to. She picked up her bag. I'll send a refusal letter tonight. You'll never have to see me again. She walked toward the door. Martin followed her. Lily, wait. She turned, and he saw tears on her face. I'm sorry, Martin. I'm sorry for all of it. After Lily left, the three siblings sat in tense silence. Finally, David spoke. That was cruel, Rachel. Was it? She's the reason Dad lied to us. She's the reason we're in this mess. She was a child when this started, Martin said. She didn't ask to be born. She didn't ask for any of this. And yet she benefited from it. Rachel shot back. She got Dad's attention, his money, his love. What did we get? A father who was emotionally absent half the time because he was managing his secret life. That's not fair, David said. Dad was there for us. He came to every school play, every graduation, every important moment. While lying the entire time, Rachel said, every Sunday, dinner, every holiday, every family vacation. He was lying. Martin rubbed his face. We need to decide what we're doing. Lily's offering to refuse the inheritance. That solves the money problem. The estate gets split 3 ways, like we expected. And we just forget about her. Rachel asked. Pretend this never happened. What's the alternative? David asked. We force her to take the money and then spend years fighting about it. We drag Dad's name through probate court. I want to know more, Rachel said suddenly. I want to see those letters she supposedly sent. I want to talk to Marlo Bennett. I want to understand how they pulled off faking a death. Why? Martin asked. Because none of this makes sense. The timeline, the story, the convenient death and resurrection. What if she's lying? What if this is all a con? You think Dad fell for a con for 23 years? Martin asked. I think grief makes people vulnerable, Rachel said. I think a smart manipulator could take advantage of that. David shook his head. She's refusing the money, Rachel. What kind of con artist refuses $3 million? The kind that's playing a longer game. But when Victoria Reeves called the next day, her message was clear. Lily had submitted a formal, notarized refusal of the inheritance. The estate would be divided equally among Martin, David, and Rachel. They should have been relieved. They should have been happy. Instead, something felt wrong. It was Martin who started digging deeper. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, something they were missing. He went back to his father's house and searched more carefully this time. He found what he was looking for in his father's study, in a locked drawer of the desk. The key had been on Thomas's keyring, which Martin had kept after the funeral. Inside the drawer was a journal. It was leather-bound, worn at the edges, filled with his father's precise handwriting. The first entry was dated January 3rd, 2019. Dr. Morrison says, I have maybe 2 years. The heart disease is progressing faster than expected. I need to make things right before I run out of time. I need to tell Martin, David, and Rachel about Lily. But every time I try to find the words, I fail. How do you tell your children that you've lied to them their entire lives? How do you explain that love and cowardice can exist in the same heart? Martin sat at his father's desk and read the entire journal. It took him 4 hours. Thomas had been planning to tell them about Lily for years. He'd drafted letters. He'd rehearsed conversations. He'd made appointments with family therapists to help facilitate the discussion. But he'd never followed through. The journal entries revealed a man paralyzed by guilt and fear. March 8th, 2020. I told Lily today that I'm leaving her the estate. She cried. She begged me to reconsider. She said it would destroy my relationship with her siblings. I told her they would understand eventually, but I don't believe that. I think they'll hate me. I think they'll hate her. But I need to do this. I need to make up for all the years I wasn't there. All the birthdays I missed. All the moments I should have protected her. The money is all I have left to give. June 14th, 2020. Victoria Reeves finalized the will today. $50,000 to each of my legitimate children. Everything else to Lily, it's done. Now I just have to find the courage to explain it to them before I die. But I'm afraid. I'm so afraid of seeing disappointment in their eyes, of losing them before I'm gone. September 27th, 2020. Martin invited me to dinner tonight. We talked about his work, his daughter starting college. He asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I'm not fine. I'm dying and I'm keeping secrets, and I'm a coward. I wanted to tell him everything. The words were right there, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't risk losing these last precious months with him. The final entry was dated February 2nd, 2021. 9 days before Thomas died. I'm out of time. The doctor says weeks, maybe days. I thought I'd had more time to explain. I thought I'd find the courage. Primera, Jua is wrong. Tomorrow, I'm going to call Martin, David, and Rachel together. I'm going to tell them everything, no more delays. No more cowardice. They deserve the truth from my own mouth, not from a lawyer reading a will. But Thomas Caldwell died on February 11th, 7 days after that final entry. He never made that phone call. Martin called his siblings immediately. When they gathered at the house again, he showed them the journal. They read it together, passing pages back and forth. He was going to tell us, David said. His voice was thick. He was planning too. But he didn't, Rachel said. He ran out of time. Or he chickened out. Either way, we never got the truth from him. The journal is the truth, Martin said. This is him explaining in his own words. Rachel flipped through the pages, her anger visibly draining into something that looked more like grief. He calls us his legitimate children, like Lily was illegitimate, like she was less than. I don't think that's what he meant, David said softly. Then what did he mean? No one answered. Martin kept reading. He found an entry from 2017 that stopped him cold. November 4th, 2017. Marlo is dying. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. She has maybe 3 months. Lily called me in tears. She's trying to be strong for her mother, but she's falling apart. I drove to Tucson today. I held Marlo's hand and told her I forgave her for cutting me out of Lily's childhood. She said there was nothing to forgive. She said she did what she thought was best. Then she asked me to take care of Lily after she's gone. To be the father I should have been all along. I promised I would. David looked up from the page. Lily's mother died 3 months after that entry, Martin said, flipping ahead. December 29th, 2017. Marlo Bennett died peacefully last night. With Lily by her side, I want her to be there. Lily said it should just be the two of them at the end. Primera and Kirsten. I've been absent for most of the important moments in her life. Why should her mother's death be any different? But I made a promise. From now on, I won't miss anything. I'll be the father Lily deserves. That's when he started giving her more money, Rachel said quietly. She'd been reading ahead. Look. January 2018. I transferred $20,000 to Lily's account today for Marlo's funeral expenses and remaining medical bills. It's the least I can do. And here, David pointed to another entry. March 2018. Lily's struggling. Depression, anxiety, the grief is overwhelming her. I offered to pay for therapy. She refused at first. Said she didn't want to take advantage of me. I told her, that's what fathers are for. She cried. She called me Dad. Not Thomas. Dad. Martin felt something breaking open in his chest. He was trying to make up for lost time. By throwing money at her, Rachel asked. By being present, Martin corrected. Look at the frequency of entries about her after Marlo died. Daily phone calls. He went to Maya's school plays. He helped Lily through her divorce. He was there, while still lying to us, Rachel said, but the heat had gone out of her voice. They spent the rest of the day reading through the journal. Thomas's handwriting got shakier as the entries progressed, as his heart disease worsened. But his determination to make things right with Lily never wavered. Near the end, they found something that changed everything. It was dated January 15th, 2021. Less than a month before Thomas died. I received a letter from Richard Hollis Jr. today. I didn't know Richard had a son. The letter explains that Richard Jr. has been researching his father's life and discovered the truth about Lily's adoption. He knows that I'm Lily's biological father. He knows about the faked death. He's threatening to go public with the information unless I pay him $250,000. He says he'll destroy Lily's reputation, expose her to criminal charges for fraud. I don't know what to do. I can't let Lily be hurt by this, but I also can't let myself be blackmailed. I'm meeting with Richard Jr. tomorrow. The entry that followed was dated January 17th. I met with Richard Jr. He's desperate. His business failed. He's drowning in debt. He sees me as an easy target. I offered him $100,000 in exchange for his silence and any documentation he has about Lily. He agreed. The money will be wired tomorrow. I've set aside funds to cover it. Martin, David, and Rachel will never know. But I'm documenting this here in case something happens. Richard Jr. is not a stable person. If anything happens to me or to Lily, this journal will explain why. Martin looked at his siblings. Dad was being blackmailed. By Richard's son, David said. Richard, who adopted Lily, who died in the car accident. Rachel was already on her phone. We need to find out more about Richard Hollis Jr. It took Frank Delgado 3 days to build a profile on Richard Hollis Jr. What he found was disturbing. Richard Jr. was 52, living in Sacramento. He'd been married and divorced twice. He had a history of failed businesses, bankruptcies, and lawsuits. In 2019, he'd been arrested for fraud related to a pyramid scheme. The charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence, but his reputation was destroyed. He knew about Lily because he found his father's old papers after his stepmother died in 2018. Frank explained over the phone. Richard Sr. apparently kept documentation about the adoption, including correspondence with Marlo Bennett about the fake death. Richard Jr. saw an opportunity. Did Dad pay him? Martin asked. $100,000, wired on January 18th, 2021. But here's where it gets interesting. On February 7th, 4 days before your father died, Richard Jr. contacted him again, demanded another $200,000, said the first payment was just a down payment. That's the week Dad wrote about planning to tell us everything. David said he was on speakerphone with Rachel. He was out of options. He had to come clean or keep paying Richard Jr. forever. But he died before he could do either, Rachel said. Has Richard Jr. contacted Lily? Martin asked Frank. Not that I know of, but with the will now public, with Lily's name attached to a $3 million estate, he'll know she exists and where to find her. We need to warn her, Martin said. He called Lily that night. She answered, on the third ring, sounding tired. Martin, is everything okay? We found something. Something you need to know about. He explained about the journal, about Richard Jr., about the blackmail. Lily was silent for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was shaking. I didn't know. I didn't know. I had no idea Richard had a son. Did your father talk about Richard much? All the time when I was growing up. He was a good man, kind, patient. He died when I was 18. I was devastated. His son is nothing like him, and he knows about you. What does he want? Money. Probably, now that the will is public, he knows you inherited the estate. But I refused it. That's not public knowledge yet, and even if it was, you might think he can use the information to blackmail the family. To blackmail you. What should I do? Come back to Portland. We'll figure this out together. Martin, I can't ask you to help me with this. You're not asking, I'm offering. Lily arrived in Portland 2 days later. This time, the meeting at Martin's house was different. Rachel was still guarded, but the outright hostility was gone. David greeted Lily with a cautious hug. They spread out the journal entries on Martin's dining room table like evidence at a crime scene. "We need to understand the timeline," Martin said. "Dad pays Richard Jr. $100,000 in January. Richard Jr. demands more in February. Dad writes that he's going to tell us everything. Then Dad dies." "You think Richard Jr. killed him?" Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "The autopsy said heart attack," David reminded them, but Dad had been managing his heart condition for years. Rachel said slowly. "His doctor had him on medication. He was careful about his diet, his stress levels." "Are you saying someone could have induced a heart attack?" Lily asked. "I'm saying we should find out." Martin called the medical examiner who'd performed Thomas's autopsy. Dr. Sarah Chun remembered the case. Mr. Caldwell's death was consistent with acute myocardial infarction. His heart disease was well documented. These things happen, especially in patients with his history. "Were there any unusual findings?" Martin asked. "Define unusual." "Anything that seemed inconsistent with natural death." Dr. Chun was quiet for a moment. "There was one thing. His potassium levels were slightly elevated, not drastically, but higher than I would have expected, given his medication regimen. I noted it in the report, but didn't flag it because it can happen with heart disease." "Could elevated potassium cause a heart attack?" "In high enough concentrations, yes. Hyperkalemia can trigger fatal arrhythmias, especially in someone with existing heart disease." "How would someone's potassium get elevated? Diet, kidney problems, certain medications, or supplements?" "Potassium supplements are available over the counter." After Martin hung up, the four of them sat in silence. "This is crazy," David finally said. "We're talking about murder." "Are we?" Rachel asked. "Dad had a blackmailer demanding more money. Dad was planning to expose everything, which would have ended Richard Jr.'s leverage. Dad conveniently dies of a heart attack that could potentially be induced." "We have no proof," Martin said. "Then we get proof," Lily said. Her voice was steel. "We find Richard Jr. and we make him tell us the truth." Richard Hollis Jr. was not hard to find. He lived in a rundown apartment complex in Sacramento, working as a used car salesman. Frank Delgado had provided photos. The man looked nothing like his father, while Richard Sr. had been solid and kind-faced. Richard Jr. was thin and sharp-featured, with nervous energy in every movement. Martin, David, Rachel, and Lily drove to Sacramento together. It was the first time all four siblings had been in the same car. Though no one commented on it, they found Richard Jr. at the car lot where he worked. He was showing a minivan to a young couple. When they approached Richard Hollis, Martin asked. The man turned. Recognition flashed across his face, quickly followed by fear. "I don't know you. I'm Martin Caldwell, Tisas David Ritchie, and Lily. I think you know why we're here." Richard Jr. looked at Lily and his face went pale. "You're supposed to be dead. So you do know who I am." "I need to get back to my customers." "Your customers can wait," Rachel said. "We need to talk about our father." "I don't know what you're talking about." David pulled out his phone and showed Richard Jr. a photo of one of the journal entries. "This is our father, documenting the $100,000 he paid you in January. We have the wire transfer records. We have everything." Richard Jr.'s shoulders sagged. "Look, I needed the money. I was desperate. Your father was rich. I just wanted a little piece of what should have been my dad's anyway." "What should have been your dad's?" Lily asked, her voice dangerous. "I said he supported you. He adopted you. And then you faked your death and ran off. My dad grieved you like you were really his daughter. You broke his heart." "I was 18 and drowning in addiction," Lily said. "I made a terrible choice. I've spent 23 years living with that guilt. Guilt doesn't pay my bills." "You blackmailed a dying man," Martin said. "And when he couldn't pay, what did you do?" I didn't do anything. He had a heart attack. That's not my fault. Did you see him again after the first payment? Rachel asked. No. I called him a few times, asking for more money. But he wouldn't answer. Then I heard he died and figured that was the end of it. Did you ever visit him in Portland? David pressed. No. Why would I? Where were you on February 11th? Richard Jr.'s eyes narrowed. What is this? A police interrogation. I don't have to answer your questions. You're right, Martin said, but the police might want to ask them, especially when we tell them about the blackmail, the timing of our father's death, and the suspicious potassium levels in his autopsy. I didn't kill anyone, Richard Jr. said, but sweat had broken out on his forehead. I was in Sacramento the whole week primero I at work. You can check. We will, Rachel said. They left him standing in the car lot, visibly shaking. In the car, David said what they were all thinking. He's telling the truth. He wasn't there. Then who? Lily asked. Rachel turned around from the front seat. Have you noticed anything strange? Anyone following you? Any unusual contact since Dad died? Lily shook her head. No, nothing. I've been focused on Maya, on work, on trying to process all of this. What about before Dad died? Martin asked. I called him. On February 10th, we talked for about an hour. He sounded tired but okay. He said he loved me. He said he was planning something that would change everything, but he needed a few more days to work up the courage. Her voice broke. That was the last time I spoke to him. They drove back to Portland in silence. Frank Delgado called Martin the next morning with new information. I've been digging into Thomas's financial records. The $100,000 payment to Richard Jr. isn't the only irregular transaction. On February 9th, 2 days before he died, Thomas withdrew $15,000 in cash from his bank account. That's unusual for him, Martin asked. Very. He almost never used cash. Everything was credit cards and checks. I've got his banking records going back 10 years. This is the largest cash withdrawal on record. What was it for? I don't know, but I found something else. Thomas's car was caught on a traffic camera on February 10th at 9 p.m., heading toward the industrial district on the east side. What's in the industrial district? Not much. Warehouses, shipping facilities. But I checked his GPS history from his phone. He spent approximately 40 minutes in that area. What was he doing there? Meeting someone, probably. The location corresponds to an abandoned office park. It's been empty for 5 years. Not exactly a normal spot for a man with heart disease to visit at night. Martin felt cold dread settling in his stomach. Send me the exact location. The abandoned office park was exactly as depressing as it sounded. 3 buildings surrounding a cracked parking lot. Windows broken, graffiti on the walls. Martin, David, and Rachel stood in the parking lot, looking around. Why would Dad come here? David asked. To meet someone he didn't want anyone to see, Rachel said. They walked through the area slowly, looking for anything that might explain Thomas's presence. It was Rachel who found it, wedged between 2 dumpsters behind the second building. A leather wallet. Inside was a driver's license for Thomas Caldwell, 2 credit cards, and a folded piece of paper. Martin unfolded the paper with hands that shook. It was a note written in handwriting that wasn't Thomas's. You have until February 15th to transfer the money. If I don't see $200,000 in my account, everyone will know what Lily did. Everyone will know you helped her fake her death. Your precious, legitimate children will know what a liar you are. Don't test me. There was no signature. This isn't Richard Jr.'s handwriting, David said, comparing it to some documents Frank had provided. It's not even close. Then who? Rachel asked. Martin turned the note over. On the back, in Thomas's shaky handwriting, were 2 words. Need help. They took the wallet and note to the police. Detective Luis Ramirez was in his mid-50s. With the patient manner of someone who'd seen everything, he listened to their story without interrupting, then read through the journal entries and examined the note. "You're suggesting your father was murdered," he said carefully. "We're suggesting it's worth investigating," Martin corrected. "The blackmail, the cash withdrawal, the meeting in an abandoned location, the suspicious potassium levels in the autopsy." The autopsy was ruled natural causes. The autopsy noted elevated potassium, but didn't flag it as suspicious, Rachel said. "If you knew someone was being blackmailed and threatened, wouldn't you look at it differently?" Detective Ramirez was quiet for a moment. "I'll look into it, but I need you to understand that even if your father was being threatened, even if he met someone that night, proving murder is a different matter entirely." "We understand," Martin said. "We just want the truth." Over the next 2 weeks, Detective Ramirez investigated. He confirmed Richard Jr.'s alibi for February 11th. He interviewed Thomas's neighbors, his doctor, his colleagues. He reviewed security footage from businesses near the abandoned office park, and he found something. A silver Honda Accord, captured on security footage, driving past the office park at 9:20 p.m. On February 10th, the same car was seen leaving at 10:15 p.m. The license plate was registered to Maya Chun, Lily's 14-year-old daughter. Except that was impossible. Maya was in school in Tucson on February 10th. There were attendance records to prove it, unless someone else had been driving her car. Lily had borrowed Maya's car that week, she told Detective Ramirez, because her own was in the shop. She'd driven it to work and back. She hadn't driven to Portland. She had no reason to. She didn't even know about the blackmail, but the detective had more questions. "Did your father seem worried when you spoke to him on February 10th? "He seemed preoccupied. I asked if everything was okay, and he said he was handling something difficult, but he'd tell me about it soon." "Did he mention meeting anyone?" "No." "Did he mention Richard Jr.? "No. I didn't even know about Richard Jr. until Martin told me." "Miss Chun, I need to ask you directly. Did you drive to Portland on the night of February 10th? Lily's face went white. "No. I was in Tucson. I worked until 6. Picked Maya up from soccer practice at 7. Made dinner. Helped her with homework. I was home all night." "Can anyone verify that?" "Maya can. My neighbors might have seen my car in the driveway." Detective Ramirez made notes. "I'll need to speak with your daughter. She's 14. This will terrify her. I'll be gentle, but if someone used your car to meet with your father on the night he died, I need to know who it was." Maya Chun was a slight girl with her mother's dark hair and her grandfather's eyes. She sat in Martin's living room, flanked by Lily and a lawyer, answering Detective Ramirez's questions in a voice that occasionally shook. "I got home from soccer around 7:15, Maya said. "Mom made chicken, stir-fry. We ate together and then I did homework in my room until like 10. Then I went to bed." "Did you hear your mother leave the house at any point?" "No. She was home all night. I remember because I needed help with my algebra homework around 9 and she came to my room." "You're certain about the time?" "Yes. I remember because my favorite show comes on at 9 and I was annoyed I had to miss it." "Did anyone else have access to your mother's car?" Maya hesitated. "Maya," Lily prompted gently. "Uncle Jason borrowed it once," Maya said quietly. The room went still. "Who's Uncle Jason?" Detective Ramirez asked. Lily closed her eyes. "My ex-husband, Jason Chun. We've been divorced for 2 years." "Does he still live in Tucson?" "He lives in Phoenix, about 2 hours away. He sees Maya every other weekend." "Was he in Tucson in February?" Lily opened her eyes. "He came to pick Maya up for the weekend on February 12th, the day after Dad died." "Did he have access to your car?" Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "He has a spare key from when we were married. I never asked for it back." Detective Ramirez interviewed Jason Chun 3 days later. Jason was 43, a software engineer, soft-spoken and careful. He sat in the interview room with his own lawyer and maintained eye contact while answering questions. "I was not in Portland. On February 10th, A. Saeed firmly, I was in Phoenix. I worked from home that day. My colleagues can verify I was on video calls from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And after 5 p.m., I went to the gym. Then I came home and made dinner. I was home alone for the rest of the night. No alibi. I don't need an alibi. I didn't do anything. Did you know Thomas Caldwell? Jason hesitated. I met him a few times. He came to visit Lily after we got married. He was at Maya's baptism. We had dinner together maybe 3 or 4 times over the years. Did you know he was Lily's biological father? Not at first. Lily told me about 6 months after we got married. She swore me to secrecy, she said. Very few people knew. How did you feel about that? About what? The secret. About Thomas Caldwell being Lily's father. About the fake death. About everything. Jason was quiet for a long moment. I thought it was messed up. I thought Lily deserved better than being someone's secret shame. But it wasn't my place to say anything. Did you resent Thomas Caldwell? No. Why would I? He was wealthy. He was giving Lily money. After your divorce, that money would have affected child support calculations. Jason's jaw tightened. I pay my child support. I love my daughter. This has nothing to do with money. Then what does it have to do with? Nothing. Because I wasn't in Portland. I wasn't anywhere near Thomas Caldwell when he died. But Detective Ramirez kept digging. He found that Jason Chun had taken a sudden trip to Portland in early February. He'd told his employer he had a family emergency. He'd flown out on February 8th and returned on February 12th. He'd stayed at a motel on the outskirts of the city. And on February 10th, the motel's security footage showed Jason leaving at 8:45 p.m. and returning at 11:30 p.m. When confronted with this evidence, Jason's story changed. Fine. They said if Jason didn't pay, they would expose Lily and destroy her life. Who's Michael Porter? The detective asked. I don't know. He started texting me in January. He said he knew about Lily's past. He said he had proof. He wanted $50,000 or he'd go public. Why did he contact you instead of Lily? He said I'd be more motivated to protect my daughter's mother. He was right. Did you pay him? No. I couldn't afford it, so I tried to figure out who he was. But I didn't do anything to Thomas. Then why lie? Detective Ramirez asked. Because I knew how it would look. But I had a good reason for being there. What reason? Jason pulled out his phone and showed the detective a series of text messages. They were from someone named Michael Porter. The messages were threatening. They referenced Lily's faked death. They demanded money. I hired someone to trace the phone number. It led me to Portland, to an address in the industrial district, the abandoned office park. Yes, I drove there on February 10th. I waited. No one showed up. I left. What time did you leave? Around 10:30. The security footage shows you returning to the motel at 11:30. I stopped for gas. I needed time to think. Did you see Thomas Caldwell that night? No. I didn't even know he'd be there. But you knew he was being blackmailed too. You could have followed him. You could have confronted him. You could have blamed him for putting Lily in danger. Jason's lawyer interrupted. My client has answered your questions. Unless you're charging him with something, we're done here. Detective Ramirez let them go. But he kept investigating Michael Porter. The phone number that had texted Jason was a burner, untraceable. The name Michael Porter appeared in public records for 17 different people in Oregon alone. None of them had any connection to Thomas Caldwell or Richard Hollis. It was a dead end until Frank Delgado had an idea. Michael Porter is a fake name, he told Martin over the phone. But what if it's an anagram? An anagram of what? Richard Hollis. Michael Porter. They're both 13 letters. Martin was quiet, rearranging the letters in his head. They don't match. No, but Richard Hollis Jr. is 17 letters. And you know what else? This is 17 letters. Thomas Caldwell. Frank, where are you going with this? I'm saying whoever created the Michael Porter identity was playing a game, hiding in plain sight, using letters from the names involved. Can you trace it back to anyone? I'm working on it. While Frank worked, the family was fracturing in new ways. Rachel was convinced Jason Chun had killed their father, either alone or with someone else. David wasn't sure, but thought the evidence was suspicious. Martin found himself in the strange position of defending Jason, not because he trusted him, but because the timeline still didn't make sense. And Lily was falling apart. She'd stopped eating, stopped sleeping. She spent hours staring at photographs of her father, trying to make sense of how everything had gone so wrong so fast. Martin found her one night, sitting on his back porch, crying silently. "I should have died in 1991, she said when he sat down beside her. That was the plan. Lily Hollis was supposed to die and stay dead. If I had, none of this would have happened. Dad would still be alive. You and David and Rachel wouldn't be going through this. You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Richard Jr. only knew about me because his dad kept records about the adoption. The blackmail only worked because I was alive. Whoever Michael Porter is, whoever killed Dad, they did it because of me. You didn't ask for any of this. I asked for a second chance. I asked my mom to help me fake my death. I asked Dad to keep my secret. I asked for all of this, and it killed him." Martin didn't have an answer. He just sat with her while she cried. 2 days later, Frank Delgado called with a breakthrough. "I found him. Michael Porter, except that's not his real name. He's 38, lives in Beaverton, works as an IT consultant. Divorced, no kids, clean record." How is he connected to Dad? That's where it gets interesting. Marcus Peterson worked at Morrison Industries from 2015 to 2018. In the IT department, which means he had access to company email servers, employee records, all of it. He found out about Dad and Lily through company files. Probably. Thomas was meticulous about keeping his work and personal lives separate. But there had to be some digital trail. Emails about wire transfers, maybe calendar entries for visits. Marcus would have had the skills to find it. Why wait until 2021 to start blackmailing people? He got divorced in December 2020, lost his job in February 2021, right before he started texting Jason. My guess is he got desperate. Can we prove he killed Dad? Not yet, but I'm getting closer. They brought the information to Detective Ramirez. He brought Marcus Peterson in for questioning. Marcus was average in every way. Average height, average build, brown hair thinning at the crown, glasses, the kind of person you'd pass on the street without a second glance. He denied everything. He'd never heard of Thomas Caldwell. He'd never sent threatening texts. He'd never been to the abandoned office park. The phone number Jason had received texts from wasn't his. "We can check your financial records," Detective Ramirez said. "If Thomas Caldwell paid you, if Jason Chun paid you, there will be a trail." "Then check," Marcus said. "You won't find anything." And they didn't. Marcus's bank accounts showed no unusual deposits. His credit cards showed no suspicious charges. He had an alibi for February 10th, though it was weak. He claimed he'd been home alone playing video games. His computer's log showed he'd been logged into an online game from 8 p.m. to midnight that night. He could have set that up to run automatically, Frank said when they reviewed the evidence. It's not a real alibi, but it was enough to create reasonable doubt. The investigation stalled. Days turned into weeks. March became April. The family was stuck in a holding pattern, unable to move forward, unable to let go. The estate remained in probate. Lily's refusal of the inheritance was still being processed. The money sat frozen while lawyers argued over legal technicalities. And then Lily received a letter. It arrived at her house in Tucson, addressed to Lily Marlowe Caldwell in handwriting she didn't recognize. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I know what you did. I know what your father did. I know everything. If you want to keep your secrets, if you want to protect your daughter, you'll pay $200,000 by May 1st. Instructions to follow. The letter was unsigned. Lily called Martin immediately. He was on a plane to Tucson that afternoon. This is it, Lily said when he arrived. Her hands were shaking as she held the letter. This is what Dad was dealing with. This is what killed him. We're going to the police. No. Lily, if we go to the police, it becomes public. The blackmail, the fake death, all of it. Maya will find out. The world will find out. My life will be destroyed. Your father tried to handle it alone, and look what happened. I'm not my father. I'm not going to die to protect a secret. Then what are you going to do? Lily looked at him with eyes that had gone hard. I'm going to find out who's doing this, and I'm going to end it. Over the next week, Lily and Martin worked together to trace the letter. The postmark was from Portland. The paper was generic copy paper available at any office supply store. The envelope was standard white business size. There were no fingerprints. But Frank Delgado had an idea. The blackmailer has been escalating. First, Richard Jr. demanded money from Thomas. Then someone calling themselves Michael Porter contacted Jason. Now someone's contacting Lily directly. These are 3 different approaches, 3 different identities, but they all know the same information. So, it's the same person, Martin said, or multiple people working together. Who benefits from keeping Lily's secret hidden? Martin asked. Lily herself, Frank said, but she's not blackmailing herself. Jason benefits from protecting Maya's mother. Richard Jr. benefits from the money. Marcus Peterson benefits from the money. But there's someone else we haven't considered. Who? Someone who knew Thomas well enough to know about Lily. Someone who had access to him in his final days. Someone who could have induced a heart attack without raising suspicion. Martin felt cold, understanding wash over him. His doctor, Dr. Ellen Morrison, had been Thomas Caldwell's cardiologist for 8 years. She was 62, well-respected, married to a hospital administrator. She lived in a nice house in West Lynn and drove a Tesla. On paper, she had no reason to blackmail anyone, but Frank Delgado dug deeper. Doctor, Morrison's husband had been sued for malpractice in 2019. The case had been settled out of court for $400,000. The couple's finances had been strained ever since, and Dr. Morrison had prescribed Thomas's heart medications. She would have known exactly how to manipulate his potassium levels to induce a fatal arrhythmia. This is a lot of speculation, Detective Ramirez said when Martin brought him the theory. We have no evidence linking Dr. Morrison to the blackmail. Then get evidence, Martin said. Set up a sting. Have Lily agree to pay? See who shows up to collect. Detective Ramirez was skeptical, but Lily was determined. On April 28th, Lily sent a text to the number that had been provided in the follow-up letter. I'll pay, but I need to meet in person. I need to know who you are and that this ends after I pay. The response came 6 hours later, May 3rd, 8 p.m. Warehouse District, Building 17. Martin, David, and Rachel watched from an unmarked van. A block away, Lily stood in the middle of the empty warehouse, her breath echoing in the vast space. At 8:07, a figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't Dr. Morrison. It wasn't Marcus Peterson. It wasn't Jason Chun or Richard Hollis Jr. It was a woman Lily had never seen before. Thin, maybe 50 years old, with graying hair and nervous hands. Who are you? Lily asked. The woman's voice shook. My name is Margaret Ash. Lily showed the message to Detective Ramirez. We can wire you, he said. Put undercover officers nearby. Make the arrests when they show up. And if they run, if they have copies of everything and they release it, we'll move fast. On May 3rd, Lily walked into an abandoned warehouse carrying a duffel bag that looked full of cash, but was actually filled with cut newspaper. She was wearing a wire. Detective Ramirez and 4 officers were positioned outside. Margaret Hollis. I'm Richard's widow, Richard Jr.'s mother. Lily's mind reeled. I don't understand. Richard never stopped loving you. Margaret sighed. Even after you left. Even after you were supposed to be dead. He kept your photos. He talked about you. When our son told us he'd found proof you were alive, Richard wanted to find you. Wanted to reconnect with you. Richard is dead. He died in 1991. Richard died in 2006. The car accident was real, but it was 15 years after you disappeared, not 15 years before. That's impossible. Your mother lied to you. She told you Richard died to give you permission to move on, but he didn't. He lived. He mourned you. And when he died, he left me nothing. His estate went to our son. I've been struggling ever since. So you decided to blackmail me. I decided to collect what should have been mine. If you hadn't come into Richard's life, if your mother hadn't pulled you away, if you hadn't faked your death and broken his heart, Richard would still be alive. You owe me. I owe you nothing, Lily said. I was a child. I was an addict. I was trying to survive. And I'm trying to survive now. Give me the money. No. Margaret pulled out a gun. Outside, Detective Ramirez shouted orders. Officers moved in. In the van, Rachel grabbed Martin's arm. Don't shoot her, Lily said, raising her hands. Please, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. Margaret's voice cracked. You destroyed my life and you don't even remember me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what happened to Richard, but killing me won't bring him back. It'll make me feel better. The officers burst through the warehouse doors. Margaret spun toward them. Guns still raised. Drop the weapon. Detective Ramirez commanded. Stay back! Margaret screamed. Everything happened in seconds. Margaret turned the gun toward Lily. An officer fired. Margaret dropped. The gun skittered across the concrete floor. Lily collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Margaret Hollis survived the shooting. The bullet hit her shoulder, and she was taken to the hospital under police custody. In the interrogation that followed, she confessed to everything. She'd found Richard Sr. had sold files about Lily's adoption in 2018, after he'd been dead for 12 years. She'd been desperate, drowning in debt after losing her husband and watching her son waste what little inheritance there'd been. She'd started with Richard Jr., convincing him to blackmail Thomas Caldwell. They'd split the first $100,000. But when Thomas refused to pay more, Margaret decided to take things into her own hands. She'd researched Thomas's medical condition. She'd learned about potassium and heart disease. She'd created the Michael Porter identity and texted Jason, trying to get him to pay instead. And then she'd reached out to Thomas directly, using an anonymous email account. She'd told him she had information that could destroy Lily. She'd demanded $200,000. She'd told him to meet her at the abandoned warehouse on February 10th. Thomas had gone, hoping to reason with her, hoping to protect Lily. Margaret had brought him coffee laced with concentrated potassium supplements, enough to trigger a fatal arrhythmia in someone with his heart condition. They'd talked for 30 minutes while Thomas drank the coffee. Margaret had told him she'd leave Lily alone if he paid. Thomas had started feeling ill around 10 p.m. Chest pain, irregular heartbeat. He'd realized what was happening. He'd tried to call for help. Marguerite had taken his phone. She'd watched him collapse. She'd waited until she was certain he was dead. Then she'd taken his wallet, hoping to make it look like robbery, and she'd left. Why didn't you just let it go? Detective Ramirez asked during the interrogation. Margaret's face was hollow. Because she got to live. After everything she did, after all the pain she caused, she got to walk away and start over while people like me suffered. That's not fair. So you killed a man. I took from her what she took from me. A father who loved her. The confession was played for the family in Detective Ramirez's office. They sat in silence as Margaret's voice recounted the details of Thomas's murder. When he tended, Rachel was crying. David had his hand in his hands. Martin sat frozen, staring at nothing. Lily excused herself and walked to the bathroom. She didn't come out for 20 minutes. When she emerged, her eyes were red but dry. "I want to refuse the inheritance," she told Victoria Reeves the next day. "I want it split between Martin, David, and Rachel, and I never want to speak to any of them again." Lily Martin started. "Don't," she cut him off. "Please, I've destroyed enough." "You didn't destroy anything. My father is dead because of me. A woman is going to prison because of me. Your family has been torn apart because of me. Margaret Hollis is going to prison because she murdered someone," Martin said firmly. "That's on her. Not you, if I had never existed." "But you do exist," Rachel said. All three siblings had come to Victoria's office for the meeting. "And what happened to Dad? What Margaret did? That's not your fault." Lily looked at Rachel with surprise. "You hate me." "I did. I think part of me still does, but not because of what you did. Because of what I lost. I lost the father I thought I knew. I lost the certainty that my family was simple and straightforward. I lost the ability to look back at my childhood and believe it was real. I'm sorry. I know. And I'm sorry too. Sorry for blaming you. Sorry for making this harder than it had to be." David spoke next. "Dad left you his estate for a reason. He wanted to make up for lost time. He wanted to give you what he couldn't give you when you were growing up. I don't want it." "Then don't take it for you," Martin said. "Take it for Maya. Take it for your future. Take it because Dad wanted you to have it, and refusing it dishonors his memory. It dishonors you." "No, it doesn't," Martin said. "You're our sister. Maybe we didn't grow up together. Maybe we'll never be close. But we're family, and family doesn't abandon each other." Lily started crying again. Victoria Reeves cleared her throat. "If I may interject, there's actually a provision in the will I haven't shared yet. Thomas added it as a codicil 2 weeks before he died." She opened the file and read aloud. "If my daughter Lily Marlowe Caldwell chooses to refuse her inheritance, I direct that my estate be divided as follows. 1/3 to Lily Marlowe Caldwell, regardless of her wishes, to be held in trust for her daughter Maya Chun until Maya reaches age 20. 1/3 to be divided equally among Martin James Caldwell, David Michael Caldwell, and Rachel Ann Caldwell, and 1/3 to be donated to addiction recovery programs in Oregon and Arizona." The room was silent. "He knew you'd try to refuse," Martin said finally. "He knew me too well," Lily whispered. The will was executed according to Thomas's wishes. Lily received approximately $1 million, held in trust for Maya. Martin, David, and Rachel each received approximately $220,000. $1 million was donated to addiction recovery programs. The house was sold, the furniture distributed among the siblings. Lily took a few photographs and her father's collection of crossword puzzle books. The journal stayed with Martin. 6 months later, the family gathered for Margaret Hollis's sentencing. She received 25 years for murder in the 2nd degree. Richard Hollis Jr. received 3 years for blackmail and extortion. Marcus Peterson was never charged, his involvement impossible to prove. After the sentencing, the 4 siblings stood outside the courthouse in the warm September sun. "What now?" David asked. "Now we try to move forward," Martin said. "Together or separately?" Rachel asked. They all looked at Lily. She was thinner than she'd been 6 months ago, her face showing the strain of everything that had happened. But there was something steadier in her eyes. "I think," Lily said slowly, "that we need time. All of us." Time to process. Time to heal. Time to figure out what family means when it's been built on secrets and revealed through tragedy. "But not forever," Martin said. It wasn't a question. "No," Lily agreed. "Not forever." They parted ways in the parking lot. Martin and Catherine drove back to Lake Oswego. David and Jennifer headed to their home in Beaverton. Rachel went to her apartment in the Pearl District, and Lily drove to the cemetery. She hadn't visited since the funeral. She'd been too afraid of what she'd feel. Too angry at the man who'd loved her enough to keep her secret, but not enough to tell the truth. The gravestone was simple. Thomas James Caldwell, beloved father, 1946 to 2021. There was no mention of a beloved husband, since Eleanor had her own stone beside his. Lily knelt in the grass and traced the letters of his name with her finger. "I forgive you," she said quietly, "for the secrets, for the lies, for leaving me the estate and putting me in this position. I forgive you because I understand, because I made the same choices. Because love and fear are tangled together, and sometimes we make terrible decisions, trying to protect the people we care about." She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket. It was the note Thomas had written on the back of the blackmail letter, the one that said "Need help." "I'm sorry I couldn't help you," she said. "I'm sorry I didn't know you needed it. I'm sorry for everything we didn't get to say to each other." She left the note on the grave, weighted down with a small stone. As she walked back to her car, her phone rang. It was Maya, calling from school. "Hey Mom, just wanted to check in. Are you okay?" "I'm okay, sweetheart." "Are you sure? You sound sad." Lily looked back at the cemetery, at the rows of stones marking the end of lives and the beginning of memories. "I'm sad," she admitted, "but I'm also grateful. Grateful for what I had, even if it wasn't perfect. Grateful for family, even when it's complicated. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Maya, so much." After she hung up, Lily sat in her car for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and sent a text to Martin, David, and Rachel. "Thank you for not giving up on me. On us. Maybe we could have dinner next month. I'd like Maya to meet her uncles and aunt." The responses came quickly from Martin. "We'd love that." From David. "Absolutely. Jennifer and the boys too." From Rachel. "It's time." Lily started the car and drove out of the cemetery. Behind her, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the graves. Ahead of her, the road stretched out, uncertain but no longer quite so lonely. The inheritance had destroyed some things. Secrets. Illusions. The comfortable belief that the past stayed buried. But it had also created something new, a fragile connection between four people who shared blood and loss, and the terrible knowledge that family was more complicated than love and harder than truth. Thomas Caldwell had left them money, but that wasn't the real inheritance. The real inheritance was the choice to keep trying. To forgive the dead and the living, to build something honest from the wreckage of lies. It wasn't the inheritance Thomas had planned, but maybe it was the one they needed. 3 years later, on a warm Saturday in June, Martin stood in his backyard watching his granddaughter play with Maya Chun. The girls were close in age and had become friends at the first awkward family dinner. Lily sat on the deck with Rachel, both of them drinking wine and talking quietly. David was at the grill with his sons, arguing good-naturedly about the proper way to cook steak. Catherine touched Martin's arm. "You're thinking about him." "Always. Do you think he'd be happy with how things turned out?" Martin watched Lily laugh at something Rachel said, watched Maya and his granddaughter chase each other across the lawn, watched his family, broken and rebuilt, flawed and trying. "I think he'd be relieved," Martin said, "and maybe a little bit proud." Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Martin sat in his study and opened the journal. He'd read it a dozen times over the past 3 years, each time finding something new. Tonight he opened to a random page and found an entry from October 2019. "Eleanor used to say that the truth will set you free, but first it will destroy you. I understand now what she meant. The truth about Lily will destroy the image my children have of me. It will shatter their certainty about who I was. But maybe destruction is necessary. Maybe you have to break something before you can build it back better. I just hope they'll understand that I loved them all. Every single one of them, equally and imperfectly, and with all my flawed heart. Martin closed the journal and turned off the light. Outside, the city was settling into night. Somewhere, Lily was putting Maya to bed. Rachel was working late at her new job. David was helping his oldest son with college applications. They were all still carrying the weight of what had happened. The inheritance, the murder, the revelations, but they were carrying it together now. And that, Martin thought, was something, not forgiveness exactly. The kind of truth that set you free, even after it had destroyed you first. Not closure, but maybe, finally, truth.